Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Wyatt Graves, your host of the Mint Tea Podcast, and I want to welcome you to today's show. It's a little bit different because we talk about GoBundance all the time, and usually when I talk about GoBundance, I talk about the men's GoBundance. Today, you get a peek behind the curtains with the women's GoBundance co-founder, Cathy Christen. And when I tell you this lady is a ball of fire and a total badass, successful entrepreneur, mom, wife, words can't describe the power that she brings to this conversation. Her energy is contagious. Her success is undeniable. And in our conversation, we talk about exactly some tips and tricks on what she has employed to make her successful. We talk about business models. We talk about the power of a tribe. We talk about the power of mindset and constantly investing in your mindset. And I made some notes that I want to share with you before we get into that conversation with her. One of the key things that I want you to listen to whenever you hear this episode is the need to constantly feed your mind. And one of the things we didn't directly communicate in the conversation, but I want to share with you because I think it's so powerful. And I think it's so powerful because I have personally used this and I personally use it today. This is how I manage to be successful. These are things that I've done. Choose them if you want to. But the point is that they're powerful for me, and Cathy validated them as being powerful for her. She says, the need for personal development 3 to 4 times a week. The reality, you need it because we all have this drunk monkey that sits on our shoulder. It's this little invisible punk that sits on our shoulder, and it tells us that we're not good enough, that we're not qualified, that we're unworthy, and that what we're dreaming about won't work, and that people will judge us, right? We talk about in this episode how important it is to be fed with positive, goal-oriented conversations, with action items that really call out the best of us, right? So that we can confront that drunk monkey and quiet the drunk monkey. He's never going to go away. He's going to be with us for the rest of our lives. So it's not about waiting until these limited thoughts go away, because they never will go away. It's about learning how to recognize that you are not your limited thinking. You are not these fears that come up and rise up within you that make you think it's not going to be successful. That's not you. So learning how to overcome them and take action and move forward toward your desired future self is what it's all about. And in the conversation today, I get fired up talking about it. Cathy and I break that down. So I invite you to listen to my conversation with Cathy Christen. Cathy, it's great to welcome you to the show, The Mint Tea. I'm so excited to connect with you. You are one of the co-founders of the women's side of GoBundance. Mm-hmm. And so I want to hear all about that today. I'm intrigued. I'm fired up about that. I actually have some lady friends that are inside of the women's GoBundance. And I think it was my introduction to GoBundance that kind of led them to the discovery of the women's side. And now they're involved, and they've had a lot of blessings that have come into their life, both personally and professionally, as a result of the conversations and the environment that you've got. So welcome to the show, Cathy.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. It's always so refreshing and exciting when I get to talk to GoBundance brothers and sisters. So it makes my heart happy.
For sure. So for our listeners, why don't you just go ahead and for complete transparency, you and I were connecting before we pressed record, and we were just getting ready to have a really awesome conversation. I said, hold on, we got to press record so that we can capture all of this and share it with the listeners. So you were getting ready to just kind of tell me your background and what led you to where you're at, and help my listeners know a little bit more about who you are and how we got connected and where we are going this year.
Yes, heck yeah. So 23 years I've been with Cutco Cutlery, working our student program. I've been in sales, one of the national trainers, and working with, at this point, more with the managers. But we do a leadership, entrepreneurship, and foundations and sales program for young people, which is pretty outstanding. For about 20 years, I've had my consulting company helping people start businesses, and then it became scaling businesses. And then I remember hitting my personal wall, where then it became, okay, how do I empower others? How do I build a great team? How do I build great systems? And I think that I really became known for that for the last 18 years, like the team whisper, so to speak, but
I love it.
being able to build empowered teams with duplicatable systems that really operate at a high level when you're not there, right? And being able to help owners be true owners and not just operators. And so I'm super passionate about just giving people the space to live a life they love, and that was my goal. When I went into entrepreneurship, I was like, man, I'm going to make my own schedule. I'm going to do whatever I want. And, and in my early 20s, I didn't understand everything that came with it, but I went and I crushed and I did real well. And by 24, I was earning close to $500,000.
Wow.
And it was awesome. And I was sick and I was hating my life. And I had pushed away everyone who was important to me because I'd become an insane workaholic, and I remember that year in 2007 going, wow, like this is not okay. And if this is success, like, I don't know if I want it. And if this is how it's going to be for the next 30, 40, 50, oh, hell no, like there's no way I can do this. And why I literally spent some time like looking at being a missionary overseas. I was like, I'm going to sell everything. Like I'm taking off.
For sure.
And I went to actually a leadership conference for our church that August of 2007. And at that event, it was like God was just like, lead where you are, lead where you are, lead where you are, and really staying in the business world, And so fast forward many years later, mid 30s, feeling a little bit lonely. I've achieved a lot. I've done a lot. I don't have a family. I wanted one. But, I had fed into the programming of others that being a successful businesswoman and the amount I traveled and the amount I was gone, and I had 4 companies at the time, they're like, no one's ever going to want to marry you. 1, you're too intimidating. 2, you're everywhere. Like, how are you going to have a family? And I had let that become a reality. And at one point I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I thinking? And I remember going to revisit with some great friends that I grew up with. And I'm sure you're familiar with some, like Hal Elrod, Justin Donald.
Yeah.
John Vroman. These are some of my best friends from Cutco from back in the day. And, visiting with them and going, I don't know what and Hal's like, come to my blueprint, event. And got refocused. And so I went that year in 2017 thinking, okay, I'm 35 now. Like, what am I doing? And they said, you have so many great lessons. Like, have you thought about writing a book? And I remember, I guess there had been a speaker that year about, writing your book. And I was like, I'm not an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a trainer, and they said, well, aren't you all about legacy? I'm like, absolutely. And they said, okay, well, how are your great grandkids also going to get to learn from you? And when John told me that, I just froze and I was like, you're right. And John Ruhlin was going to be working on his book.
Wow.
Which God bless. And Ruhlin's like, you got to write a book. And Vroman's like, you got to write a book. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. So that's where Life as a Masterpiece came from, which is really all the nuts and bolts that I wanted to pass to my great-great-grandchildren on how do you live an epic life that you absolutely love, right? How do you design and live a life you love today? And I put my heart and soul into that and all of my experiences, and I'm very proud of it. First there's just all about what do you want, why do you want it, and getting so clear on that. The second part is all about how do you get it, right? The nuts and bolts of the strategy aspect, which is what I get paid the big bucks for, right? Strategizing and like, how do we do this? And then the last third is how do you sustain it? Because life happens and you're going to have, walls you're going to overcome obstacles. And so whether it was, morning rituals, which I talk about, Hal's Miracle Morning, your circle of influence, overcoming adversity, all these things to really serve as a blueprint to help people, do what I was able to do for myself and my family members and for now thousands of people over the last couple decades. So it's been awesome. And I got to start GoBundance Women. That's the end of the tale here. And that's been just so incredible. Through Hal and through Best Year, I actually met Mike McCarthy at Best Year Blueprint. And they said, you guys need to know each other, and he told me about GoBundance. I'm like, oh, these are my people. I'm like, sign me up. And they're like, well, actually men only. And well, that was it. And I said, what? I'm like, oh, no, this has got to change. And a year later, they brought myself and Kelly and some other women together to talk about what it could look like. And it's been really amazing to see over the last couple of years. And I know we're just getting started.
Man, I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. It's really incredible. So many nuggets that I wrote down. I'm taking notes. If you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. I'm writing all these notes, right? Like so many nuggets of truth. I love it. So thank you again for sharing that. I want to start with, I want to recognize a trait and a commonality that I have found. See, Justin Donald, we have to make some, I want to recognize a mutual connection with Justin Donald and John Roman. So I met them at a mastermind that I went to, which was the very first mastermind I ever attended with Jeff Woods. Have you met Jeff Woods? Do you know Jeff?
I know of him. I haven't met him.
Okay. So Jeff started this show. He started the Mentee way back when, and it was a way to document his journey from employee to entrepreneur. And he caught on to the Jim Rohn quote that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so what his secret to success was for him was figure out where you want to be and go find other people that are already doing it and then get into a relationship with them, and the rest is history. And that's what he did, which led him to go work for Gary Keller and Jay Papasan over at The One Thing, which then led to him working for a major steel company over in India. And then recently he has opened his own mastermind around business strategy and leveraging AI. So if you don't know about Jeff and his mastermind with AI, you got to go look at it. I joined it last year, completely supercharged every single thing about the strategy that I am employing for my business. But my point in all that is at that first mastermind, Justin and John were the guest speakers.
I love it.
And they were incredible. I reached out to Jeff after the mastermind. Hey, I'd like to get in touch with Justin. I've got a deal. It may be up his alley, or he's got a connection that we could do something together with. I called Justin. He says, you know what? This isn't for me or my people, but it is for my great friend, David. So he connects me with David. At the time, I had no idea who David was, but it was David Osborne. So I get on the phone with David, and he invites me out to Austin to his mastermind event for his private equity company. And then there it evolved into the GoBundance summer event, and the rest was history in 2018. So I'm in GoBundance because of Justin Donald.
That's awesome.
Crazy small world. And so the commonality that I wanted to recognize, what an incredible culture around every single person that I've ever met that's been involved with Cutco. Incredible culture with all those people, all those names you dropped. Cutco is the common thread, and all of them are awesome people. What do you attribute that to? Is it Cutco and something that Cutco offers? Or this is just the vetting of those people that sort of found Cutco and then kind of fall out, and they've bound together because of their commonalities. Like, what's the formula? What's it? What are we missing?
I think Cutco is a big part. Not the people Cutco has, right? The leadership of Cutco is pretty spectacular, and very growth oriented. And I think that, when you're working in direct sales, any kind of, like, you have to pour in some personal development, right? To keep people, because you're dealing with rejection. You're dealing with real emotions, right? Highs and lows. And so understanding the power of, perseverance, of what you're focusing on, right? Being able to change your state at any time. Let's say you had a horrible sales presentation, and now being able to get in the zone, to go to my next appointment and not come with that energy, but come with an energy of, they might have said on the phone, I might be thinking about everything, right? Even though they might have said, Wyatt, I don't think I'm going to get anything today. And really learning how to manage your energy, how to manage your emotions. And so the more successful, the longer you stay around. And by the way, there's high turnover, right? And so everyone doesn't make it in the long haul, but those who do learn these soft skills of resilience, of people skills, learning how to network, learning how to build rapport and trust, in a just a drop of a hat. And you get really good at these things. And so we just get good at relationships. And I think Cutco exposing us to, personal development, exposing us to Jim Rohn, and exposing us to Tony Robbins and, John Maxwell and all these great thought leaders, really, and starting young. And so I started diving into a lot of this material at 19.
Wow.
being surrounded, and it was my normal, right? It's all I knew. And
Yeah,
realizing now, as I'm working with people, wow, I'm working with people in their 40s and 50s who were never exposed to these things, or these principles.
sure.
And yeah, so really great training. And then Cutco has a big leadership development program, and they have an entrepreneurship program. And so there's just a lot of foundations that build great humans and great business owners.
So I want to tie that back to your book and what you said, right? You said you talk about the what and the why, the how equals the strategy and the sustainability of it. And then you mentioned like the morning routine that Hal talks about in his Miracle Morning. So what we're really talking about is models, right? There's models like success leaves clues. So the people that are experiencing these extraordinary wins and this grand life, right? They've all been exposed to models that if you follow, you get a predictable result, right? It's like predictable input gives predictable output. And then you reference the soft skill part of it, changing your state, emotional management, energy management. Let's talk about some of that. And I want to tie that back to Women's GoBundance, Men's GoBundance, your book, the things that you do, which is your inner circle, because you mentioned that, right? It's about morning rituals and models, but then your inner circle. Mm-hmm. So many people maybe miss the boat, or maybe they undervalue the power of your tribe, the power that you experience when you get around the women in Women's GoBundance or the men, and they're all like-minded. There's something magical that happens there. So just whatever you feel led to talk about, that's what I want you to talk about with me.
Oh man, that's power pack. So which angle do you want me to tackle? My brain's going like 20 different places right now.
What do you think is, here's what I want people to be able to take away. There are people that need a shift in energy right in this minute that they hear this episode.
Yes.
There are people that need a shift in energy, momentum, and hope in the season of life that they're in right now as they listen to this episode. Mm-hmm. What can they do today? What's an action item today that you've used, that you've seen other women use, other men use, that will shift their mindset and then put them in a different position to then go out and conquer whatever it is and have the results that lead to the life they want?
Yes, perfect. Well, one of my favorite tools that I've used and seen so many is the power of just having a dream session, right? And in GoBundance, we have that baked into the one sheet, right? But sitting down and disconnecting, like at every time of my life, and actually in my book, I used any time of transition, and I always recommend it in transition, and even in a new year to look back on. But being able to just go somewhere, like everything's going nuts, maybe you're not feeling like, oh, I don't know what's going on, or losing hope, and taking some time to go to the beach, go to the mountains, maybe create a really nice, maybe you have a nook in your house that is very relaxing and inspiring for you, but just sitting down to really think about what's possible. And I know that it's hard when you're in a place where you feel hopeless. And so I think it's important to utilize a tool, right? A great friend, Dane Espegard, he has the Dream Machine. There's an app you can use, all that, online, there's different meditations, that help with this. And so a meditation is a great tool, a guided meditation to just get your brain thinking, right? Like have someone else asking questions about what could this look like? What's that? Because sometimes when you're on your own trying to do that, you're like, well, nothing. I don't know. Nothing's good. Or, like if someone's in a place where they've lost hope, sometimes there's this like wall, this block, and you can't see through the wall. And so that's where, or you have your blinders on, right? And so that's where having an outside perspective. And so whether it's attending a workshop, right? So at home, so I was giving the most basic, right? At home, listening to a meditation, listening to doing an exercise to help you start thinking bigger about what life could look like, right? If you had all the tools and resources, if you had all the time in the world, what could it look like, right? And thinking about those things. A deeper step, a little more commitment is going to a workshop, right? There's free workshops all over the country online. There's free workshops probably in your city right now if you go to Eventbrite that you can hop into. And obviously GoBundance offers some phenomenal, workshops to be able to help support people, in growth. And then there's the big events like Date with Destiny. That was a life changer, right? And I said,
yeah, no doubt.
Go, and do that. But But I think step one is to have someone help you, or you have the tools to take some time to really think limitless, right? And what things could look like, and not just what you have, because sometimes people focus so much on the material things, but really thinking about who you want to be and how you want to feel. Like, that is so important. I remember when I did my first dream session, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to own a lot of things. I wanted to have a lot of influence. I wanted to be able to impact, but I wasn't sure, oh, I want to be a mechanical engineer and do that. Like I didn't have all these specifications. And I remember feeling a little bit, it felt a little bit daunting, in my younger years, when they're like, tell me about, what you want to have, what you want to do. And I'm like, I want to be a great person. What I want to do is have influence and impact to help people be at their best. And so it wasn't necessarily, I want to do blank trade, or I want to do this, but I was really thinking about like how I wanted to be remembered and how I wanted to feel. Like, I want to feel joyful. I want to release shame, right? Shame is one of the lowest vibrational emotions you can have. And I had lots of it for mistakes I had made in my youth. And I didn't want to feel that anymore, right? I wanted to feel free. I wanted to feel peace. And so just going through that exercise and really thinking about, wow, like, and then putting myself in that place. And that's where a great guide or mentor or coach, or, Tony Robbins had us. It's like, all right, now see it from, God's eyes, right? Like, it's like, see it from your eyes, see it from the person's eyes, see it from God's eyes. And you're looking at different perspectives, and you're like, wow, like, there's so much more that's here. And I can only do this much, but in community or through higher power, whatever that is for you, like, there is more available, right? And it's up to me to say, you know what, I want that. And I want to feel like that. And then having someone help or guide you on how do you get there. And that could be an incredible psychologist or therapist. That could be an incredible, life strategist. That could be a business coach, whatever it is. There are people out there, or communities. I'm a huge fan, and I'm very proud to be one of the co-founders of GoBundance and get to assist women with this, and really digging in to think about, where do I want to be, and like, what's important to me, and then really getting plans together and action steps on how we get there.
I love all that. And I took a lot of notes. What I want to highlight is two things, right? It's sort of this little formula. I want you to give your insight on this, because this whole show is about what I'm doing, right? This is just what I'm doing. It's not necessarily what you should do, right? Or our listeners should do. So it's what worked for you. It's what worked for me. And what I have been trained and taught, and you said this without directly saying it. So I want to make sure that we frame it. If this works, I want to, kind of just put a stamp on it, right? You said, take a break, disconnect, and dream. Mm-hmm. And for so many people, that feels impossible. For so many people, they are, right, our environments are optimized to keep us stimulated and to keep us addicted to caffeine, sugar, the red dots on our cell phone, everybody that's coming in with a text message, an email, a phone call, social media, the 5 different platforms. And then all of a sudden, right, it's time for bed. And we're exhausted. And so we fall asleep late at night. And then we wake up the next morning not having accomplished anything that we wanted to really accomplish, not having dreamed or disconnected, right, to figure out what's really behind what we want. And then we just repeat it, right? So taking that break, and these are the 2 little quotes that I say often, and I want your opinion on it. Behavior precedes motivation is one, right? And so you have to do the break. You have to do the solo retreat. You have to do the journaling. You have to do the dreaming. And then you feel motivated as a result of it. You're not necessarily motivated and fired up to do it going into it. And that brings you to the second point I want you to talk about, which is a forcing function, right? And so when you schedule that break or schedule that dreaming session, and you begin to plan and design your environment to be conducive to that dreaming session, then you don't have to leverage willpower as much, right? It's an appointment. It's confirmed. Then it forces the behavior that then elicits the motivation. And if you make a lifestyle out of that, then that's how you really find extraordinary change. What do you think about that?
Oh, why? I teach something so simple. I call it the decision train. And I teach this to a lot of our clients and our students that we work with at Cutco. And so it's like right on what you're saying. As you were saying, I'm like, oh, the decision train. And I say, too many people lead with feeling. Right. And so they let feeling like, oh, I don't feel like it, or, oh, I'm tired. I'm like trying to find something right with here. And they just, that's how they lead their life. And so sometimes they don't take the actions they want to take, that are going to match up with like the goals or dreams or whatever they might have. And so I look at it like if we had a train and we said, okay, what's leading? We have a decision, right? And then we have action, and then we have feeling. All right. And so this is our train. And so most people, it depends how they feel, whether they take action or not. It usually doesn't match this. But if we make a decision and we say, I'm gonna make a decision that I want to change. I want to be somewhere different. I'm just going to make that decision. And we take an action towards that, whether we want to or not, right? Whether we feel like it or not.
Sure.
Like, I'm going to take this action. I'm going to wake up an hour early and sit outside in the sunshine, and I'm going to journal, or I'm going to set this appointment to go to blank thing, whatever. At the end, we always feel phenomenal, right?
That's right. That's right.
It's just like the gym. Like, I want to work out. I want to, and I will be the first to say this. I'm 7 months postpartum. I have been letting feelings guide the action to go to the gym. I'm like, I just don't feel, or I'm like, I just had a moment alone from the kids. I just want to, I'm like, no. Like this week, I was like, no, I am making a decision. I'm like, it's time to get back. Baby 7 months old. Let's go. And yesterday, I didn't feel like it, and I almost canceled. I'm like, nope, I made a decision. I got in my freaking car. And guess what? Afterwards, I was like, I'm so proud of me, and I feel so good. And I woke up today feeling sore, and I'm like, oh yeah. Right. So.
And something about that, I think, unlocks, it's magical. And when I try to interrogate why is it magical? It's something about integrity to myself, right? It's like I'm practicing what I preach. I'm doing what I know needs to be done to get where I want to be. And because of that integrity within myself and the promise and the commitment to myself for following through, it is a superpower for me. It motivates me to just take on whatever it is in front of me and charge the hill, and usually turned out to be a good thing.
For sure, for sure. And it's so crazy that we will do more for, some people, even a minimum paid wage job or a low paid job, because the boss says this or they do this, and they'll do it and they'll show up and they'll have the discipline because the boss told them to do it. Then they'll do for themselves. And
that's so true.
That same level of discipline for themselves, and they won't have the same standards, and that's something that I love. And actually, back to what you were saying with Cutco, that I learned in Cutco was like, okay, you could have whatever job and go work for $9 an hour and do whatever, and be like, in this job, you get to make your own schedule. You also have an unlimited amount of income that you can make, but you need to make a schedule. And so it's a double-edged sword. Why do not people make more money? Well, because it's so flexible, and they don't have the discipline to say, this is my work time. This is when I'm making my calls.
That's right.
This is my play. And instead, their friend says, hey, you want to go out tonight? They're like, sure. And they're flexible, and they don't have discipline. And then guess what? They don't make any money. And so, but for those who have the discipline, oh, it gets sexy. I was 19 years old in 2.5 months. I made 22 grand. It's a lot of money for a 19-year-old to make in 2.5 months. Right. But I had a schedule. My manager helped me design it. I had a coach who helped me put it together. And then it was up to me to go, I'm going to get this done. And the days that I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to do that. And I'm like, if I was working at the restaurant, would I just not show up? Of course not. Of course I would show up. I made the schedule for myself, and I'm going to pay myself more money than that restaurant will. Why would I not show up?
Look, you just made the best segue to one of the notes that I wrote that I wanted to come back to.
Perfect.
You talked about when you were making $500,000 a year, right? And I wrote direct sales equals superpower. Say it again.
I said almost. It was 470.
Oh, okay. Well, that's close enough. 470, right? 470,000, right? But I wrote direct sales equals superpower for cash.
Oh, yeah.
If there are women or there are men, young or old, it doesn't matter, right? If you need more cash flow,
oh, yeah.
if you need more cash, I think that direct sales is the way to go. It could be Cutco, it could be real estate, it could be wholesaling, it could be educational courses, it could be
Absolutely.
whatever, right? Direct sales is where it's at for quick, I'm not going to say easy, but cash flow that is within your power.
Yeah.
So
work.
That's right. But you just hit so many nails on the head. Again, going back to the models, right? A model is a proven way of doing something at a certain input that gets a predictable output. So you said your coach helped you create a schedule. You had to dig deep to find the discipline to show up and execute on the schedule, right? But when you applied the rules and the framework of that model, you hit $470,000 in income in one dang year, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So talk to me about direct sales and just maybe a few little bullet points on what helps somebody that is in a place where they need extra. There's 4,000 real estate agents in the Baton Rouge market. 4,000. I can name about 50 of 4,000 that are actively selling and doing a decent amount of sales such that they are not struggling. Mm-hmm. People get in the real estate world, I'm sure, like they get into Cutco because it's a flexible schedule. They can make their own schedule, and yet they don't make the schedule, or the schedule they make, they apply it, or they go after it in a half-hearted way. So talk to me about direct sales and some things that we might be able to help inspire other people to do to get a grip and then really accelerate their cash flow for 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. I love sharing these tips. So I think number one, when it comes to direct sales, the number one thing is mindset, right? Like it really starts with a belief in the product, the company, and yourself, right? And if you don't believe genuinely in what you're selling, it'll show. And so top earners, like they constantly work on their mindset as well, like staying positive, staying persistent, solution focused is so important. So I think that all of that, like one, do you believe in the actual product, right? But then also, are you feeding your mind? Like, are you leaning into personal development? If you are in direct sales and you are not at least 3 or 4 times a week, if not daily, digesting a podcast, a book, something that's helping your mind stay sharp, on it, and motivated, like, life happens and you're human, and we are going to get discouraged, and we are going to get frustrated, and we are going to, but a lot of these, whether it's a podcast or a book, or, I loved Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy was my book my first summer.
Okay.
When I started with Cutco, and just like learning about all these things, and it motivated me to understand, like, I did have so much more power within me than I even thought, right? I think the next step is really building a strong personal brand, because people buy from, people, not just companies. And so in our world and with the students, we talk a lot about being able to genuinely connect and open up and being quote unquote vulnerable, like just getting to know them, like asking questions and getting to know people, not just on the surface, but the deeper you go. There's a book that I love. And if you're out there and say, like, check it out, it's Matthew Kelly, 7 Levels of Intimacy. And it's not a sex book, all right, but it's really understanding the intimacy of human relationships, because most human beings talk surfacey. How are you? Great. I don't know. You see someone in the supermarket, right? Very surfacey. And that's very cliche, right? And then the next level is more facts, like, oh, Wyatt, did you see how blank game ended up? Or did you see? And those are more facts, or the weather here, or the whatever result in this happened in the politics. But you're keeping it to facts. Then the next layer is opinions. Well, some people don't like to share opinions, because if you have opposing opinions, then there's conflict, right? And it keeps going. But in some of the deepest places, it talks about, hopes and dreams. But one of the scares is fears. Right? I think this is something Hal mastered when he was young, and he teach this. And I learned this from him in like 2002 when he was talking.
What a blessing.
Yeah, he was like, you want to share with people like, hey, I'm really excited about this goal. I'm working, like sharing your goals and hopes, like why are you
Mm.
doing this, and like what this could provide for your family and what you're excited about, but also talking to, the customers and getting to know about them and like, oh, what did you do? What are some of your biggest goals? And sometimes they're like, huh? Because they haven't thought about that in a while because adults stop dreaming and it sucks.
So
And
true.
go
So
into
true.
emotions. When you're a
Yes.
little kid, you dream all the time and you're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna, whatever it is. And as we get older, it's like these parts of us die that are so important to live this full, abundant life. And so I think that just, getting to really connect and know like what were some of the most exciting or like what are some of the things they were most proud of or, so sharing goals. And so it's something I taught my salespeople, and even one of my top reps from back in the day, he is crushing it in real estate in Houston. I'm so proud of him. And he teaches his team. He's like, as you get to know clients, like what are some of your goals? What are some of your hopes? What do you want to do with the house that you want to buy? What do you, and in that first initial, meeting with them, getting to really know, well, all of a sudden that customer's like, this is my person. This is who like they connect with you on a whole other level. And whenever they're buying or selling, like they want to do that with you because you actually built a relationship that was deeper beyond, oh, how are you? How's this? How's that? And all the surfacey things, right? So just getting in into a deeper relationship where there's trust with that person, and then there's stuff with the brand, the social brand aspect of, being on social media and posting and recognizing people, showing up consistently, this same person, Caleb, I'm so proud of him because he's used so much of what he did at Cutco, and I see it now. I see him always on, posting videos of the houses and when his people buy, like, I'm so happy for my customers. They have their dream house and this, and he just shouts them out with like all the things that people were excited about. And I'm so excited for the buyer who was, in both sides, like recognizing like the things they wanted and how it's going to help them in the next chapter. And so people feel good. And guess what? They keep bringing him referrals, right?
Love it.
He has these relationships. So he doesn't have to work so hard. Like, where do I find the next lead, right? He just has leads coming in because he learned that relationship building and tying them into who you are, where you're going, and how you can help them get there. That's going to impact the amount of referrals that you get. Right. And it'll also impact sales that were maybe sale, but they're like, I like you. And they're going to buy today versus later. Right.
I love what you said when you said adults stop dreaming, because we talk about this in my own world as I do sales training as well. You cannot dream for other people if you don't dream for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you don't take time to disconnect, if you don't take those solo retreats, if you don't take time to journal and do some introspective work and dream, then you cannot show up for other people and dream for them, which then makes you such a transactional salesperson, which is not going to succeed. And if you do succeed to some degree, you're not going to have the joy, right? Because it's you burn out and it's going to be very surface level and transactional and won't be fulfilling. So good. So good.
And Wyatt, with that too, for someone who's listening and maybe you're in the start of your journey and you're like, I don't have the funds to go to to this conference or to go on a retreat or to go away. You can go to your backyard.
That's right. A free public park.
Exactly. Right. Or
that's right.
If you don't have a backyard, you can walk down the street to the park and just sit under a tree, take your shoes off, connect with the earth, and just sit down and put on some music in your ears and journal. Right. Like, don't forget, like there's nature, like God gave us nature, which is one of the best places to disconnect and reconnect with ourselves and with something way beyond us. And I don't know that and even myself in times take as much advantage of that. Right. I'm like, I have to go fly to Hawaii to like disconnect. I have to go here.
No doubt.
Like I could go for a walk 3 blocks away and there's a great park that I can sit in or my backyard. Right. So I want to make that known too, because just doing that and even 5 minutes a day of just going and just breathing, and just soaking in some fresh air and being like, all right, like, what do we want to do today? Or what are we working on? Or it's walking through your day. Like, what's going to happen. It's like, I'm going to do this. We're going to go through here, and like walking through that helps your subconscious knows what's happening, helps you be a lot more relaxed and go about the day versus like, you're like, what's happening. And
sure.
And now you can interrupt the interruptions when other stuff comes in that's not in the flow of the day. Right. Or you can make decisions if it's
for sure.
But yeah, and I mean, to wrap with the sales stuff, like make sure you master your skills. I see too many people in direct sales trying to do all these big numbers, but they don't have their foundations. And whether it's a new customer script or a reach out script or a follow-up script or, having these things. So if you're anything that you're actually doing in person and talking, like, do you have your skills down? Do you know how to build a report? Do you know how to show certain things? Do you know how to compare prices? Do you know how to ask for an order? Do you know how to ask for referrals? Like whatever your company has, and all the best direct sales companies have great scripts, get your stuff down, because now you can have great conversations based on foundations that are proven, scripts that have proven results, and you can put your personality into it, but you have to master the fundamentals. And too many people try to skip that part to keep up with the rest without taking time to just be so confident in what they're saying and what they're doing and how to, answer questions for customers. So I think that's really, really important, that they're doing that. And as you grow your business, do you have duplicatable systems that assistants? Now you start building a team and you have people helping you. And do you have systems? Do you have duplicatable processes? Because that's how you scale. There's only so far you can go solo. And
that's right.
To have those systems to get to that next level, right? And do not forget that the fortune is in the follow-up. All right.
No, that's so good. Yeah. I just shared that with somebody, a roof salesperson. He asked me for a connection recently, and I said, you know what, you need to call this person. And if you get to this person and you really convert him, then you'll have so much business in your roofing business, right? Because he's a commercial property agent, long time, very experienced, very wise. And he says to every salesperson, the fortune is in the follow-up. And so I just was able to share that with a roofer. And look, the commercial salesperson, he didn't really give my guy the time of day. He was really short, and he said, we've got who we need. So my person texted me back and said, we really didn't go far. I said, here's what you do. Let me teach you something. You get yourself a handwritten card, and you're going to write him a note, and you're going to say, call him out by name. And you're going to say, a wise salesperson said that he was trained by a wise salesperson who taught him that the fortune was in the follow-up. And he'll know that we're talking about him as being the godfather of sales here in Baton Rouge. And then you stay in touch with him, and you follow up with him, and you provide value for him, and you stay front of mind for him. Somebody's not going to show up in his world one day, and you'll have an opportunity to go prove to him that you're his guy. You'll convert him, and you'll have business forever. That's how it works. I love it. I love it. The fortune is in the follow-up.
Yep, I love it. And I think that beyond that, there's different levels where it's like mastering team building and then just being a great leader, right? For your people. Because as you grow it, you have people looking up to you, people you're leading, maybe now new salespeople, maybe now you have your own real estate brokerage and now you've got reps that you're pouring into, or maybe in a different industry, you've got a team some other way, whatever it might be.
Sure.
And we can keep going there.
Sure. Well, look, this has been awesome. Tell me how people can get in touch with you if they're interested in the Women's GoBundance. I know that your book is for sale at every major bookstore. I've seen it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. How can people get in touch with you and find out more about whatever you're involved with?
Yeah, Cathy at cathychristen.com is probably the best, because it has links to GoBundance, it has links to my book, it has links to all the things. So Cathy with a C, and then at Cathy Christen, and Christen is spelled like Chris, CHRIS, and then the number 10, TEN.com. So that's the best place to reach me. And it has all the social, buttons on the top. You can connect with me on social media. So it's all there.
I love it. This has been awesome. Look, one of the things that I love this show for is that it forces me to be able to connect with other people, right? Badasses like yourself. And then from these connections, opportunities are born. I wrote a note. We're going to connect. I want to come to Houston. We're going to host a workshop. We're going to host a workshop there. And I also want to go to, I want to do 3. So this is what I'm planting a seed. I want to do one in Houston. I want to do one in San Antonio, and I want to do one in Lafayette, Louisiana. So all 3 of those are kind of, you're kind of centralized. That's right. We're going to do it. And we're going to show people what being part of a great community is all about, whether they qualify for GoBundance or or not, we've got a community that fits for them, and it's designed to help supercharge everything that they want, so that if they want to join GoBundance, that they'll have that option too. So you and I, we've got some work to do, and I'm looking forward to following up with you on that.
Excited. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.